I'm going to close this out. I'm going to close this out. There we go. All right. So we're going to talk about both intermittent fasting and longer fast. At the end of our conversation, I'm going to let everybody know the very last chapter of this is for women. So you guys, it's basically fasting according to menstrual cycles. So if you don't have a woman in your life that's interested in that information, or you'd rather bow out, I'll give you that opportunity, and I'll just keep that chapter for the end. So basically what we're going to talk about is the benefits of fasting, the different types of fasts, the pillars of your own journey, like how is this specific to you, and what kind of fast would be best for you. I'll keep fast like a girl unless you're a guy at the end, and I'll do fasting in specific conditions. So the benefits of fasting, like most of us hear this, but until you experience it, then you really can't understand like how beneficial certain lengths of fast are. So one of the biggest ones is increased ketones, right? That's the alternate fuel source when our blood sugar drops. So huge benefits to us digging into those ketones, making more ketones, increased mitochondrial stress resistance. We all live in this world of technology and just constant adrenal load, right? So that stress resistance is probably more important now than it has been in decades. Increased antioxidant defenses. Again, I think this is one of the reasons that fasting came back into popularity, is because we're looking like since the pandemic, it just seems like every time we turn around, we've got some other disease, some other illness that is, taking over our communities. So we're trying to learn how to boost our own immune systems in spite of the environment that we live in. Increase autophagy. When cells dip in blood sugar in a fasted state, then the repair kicks in. Increased DNA repair, super important. Decreased glycogen. So if your blood sugar or your insulin level is high when you wake up in the morning, that fasting can literally eliminate that issue. We get into decreased insulin as well. Increased growth hormone. And most of us are, all of us are in that age group, because growth hormone stops after age 30, right? So we just don't produce it anymore. The only way to produce it, one, is to take growth hormone and to fast. Resets dopamine pathways. So every time you eat something yummy, you're getting this hit of dopamine. And that comes from our technology as well. If you have notifications on all day, you're getting pings of dopamine all day long. So that just ends up raising our cortisol levels and needing more. It builds up a tolerance. Repairs the immune system, improves the microbiome. Your body has 10 times more bacteria than cells, and 90% of that bacteria lives in the gut. Reduces reoccurrence of cancer. So if you're someone like myself and some of you who have had bouts of cancer and are at risk for that returning, it definitely multiple studies, hundreds of studies have actually gone into proving, or have not just a correlation, because almost every single study, there was a reduction in the reoccurrence of cancer with people who fasted as opposed to people who did not. Decrease mTOR, decrease protein synthesis. So then we get into reduction, the things that like are sexy, right? Reduction in total body fat, reduction in visceral fat, reduce your waist circumference, lower your blood pressure, decrease your LDL, and decrease your hemoglobin A1C. So a multitude of benefits. I want to see you guys again. And so out of like those benefits, think about the things that are most important to you, and we're going to get into this, and what your goals are and what your health status is right now. And that's why the types of fast is going to be really crucial. As we go, kind of like either write down your questions, or if you don't, you have pen and paper, you can put them in the chat. You can put them in the chat or just keep them in mind, and we'll cover any questions at the end. But right now I wanted to get into the variety of different fasts. We're going to cover intermittent fasting, autophagy fasting, gut reset fast, fat burner fast, dopamine reset fast, immune reset fast. And we're not going to go in deep detail because that would take that would be like a 2-month webinar series, but we're going to touch on the finer points. So first, the biggest one, of course, the one that everybody's talking about is intermittent fasting. So after about 8 hours, which is your typical time sleeping, your body begins making ketones. So when we eat until like right before bed, and then if we sleep 7 hours and we get up and we start eating, we put one morsel of food in our body, we are never going to make ketones. We're never going to be able to lose body fat. Between 10 to 15 hours, and this is where the whole like 16-8 and 14-10 kind of windows come in, is because 12 to 15 hours after the last bite, our body starts making energy and burning fat and ketones in the bloodstream, turn off hunger. So this is our best fat burning window. So bodybuilders, what do we typically do when we're getting closer to a show in the morning? We do fasted cardio. Yeah, exactly. So that fasted cardio, that's why that is there, because it's going to push you into that fat burning zone faster and longer by not only waiting to eat, but expending more energy during that window. Then you also have more mental and physical energy and clarity. Cells begin, there's a little, if we're talking about bodybuilding, everything I talk about today is going to be kind of mainstream. There's always a caveat when it comes to bodybuilding, and bodybuilders often are in a state of caloric deficit. So sometimes that mental boost and that physical energy may not be there after that fasting window like it will most people, because we don't have the fat storage. So I hope that makes sense.
It does.
We're trying to get this whole new, like, super lean, but your body will start fighting it instead of welcoming it. Cells begin to move into a state of autophagy, repairing, detoxing, and regenerating. That is probably the most important point of all, because we're all aging. And I don't know about you guys, but it's not pretty. Like you have a little harder time getting up sometimes. Your joints start to hurt. You're seeing, like I just literally had an esthetician, put 5,000 needles in my face to try to get rid of those wrinkles. Like it really is, aging is hard, and those cells, it's hard to repair them. And there are people that you may know that are spending tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars to have stem cells injected into their body. But there's an easier way, which we'll talk about. It's these longer fasts. So when you repeatedly dip into a fasted state, you're going to see long-term improvements in your health markers like blood pressure, fasted glucose, and insulin, your A1C, and your C-reactive protein. So the benefits of intermittent fasting that people, number one, people care about the most is weight loss. The second is mental clarity. And the third is physical energy. And again, the brain fog is a real thing as we get older. So, you know, I do this app, it's called Elevate, so that I can keep my brain, I mean, not that I don't, you know, keep my brain active during the day, but it's all math and, you know, word recall and things like that. But also intermittent fasting is a good way to help the cells of the brain repair instead of continuing to break down.
Got a quick question.
Yes.
In the beginning of fasting, do you experience that fog though? Like if you're first starting, I remember my boss was doing like keto or something, and he incorporated fasting, and he was saying just for that first like day or so, he's like, I just am in a fog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that subside? Okay.
It does. It does.
Okay.
And we're going to get into like the length of fast, and you'll see that. You'll see when the mental clarity really hones in. And you'll also have people who literally are just basically going into a state of like they're addicted to sugar, and their body's so used to having that sugar that it's almost like they're fighting that addiction. All right, now we have, when we are talking about cell repair, the biggest window is 17 to 72 hours. So those of us who do intermittent fasting or kind of play with intermittent fasting, we're not getting into that window. So we're not having, this is not one of the biggest benefits for people who only do intermittent fasting. If you really want cell repair, if you want to detox your gut, if you are having hormone imbalances, if you want an immune boost, brain function, that 17 to 72 hours is crucial. We're going to break that 17 to 72 hours into much smaller windows and tell you a little bit about what each window is best used for. So we have the gut recess, 24 hours. So I just recently did a gut reset because I was getting a lot of bloating. Like I just felt like I had a flat stomach in the morning, and by the afternoon, I looked like a little pregnant bodybuilder. Like my stomach just so round.
Absolutely.
And it was just, I couldn't eat any raw vegetables. Everything was bothering me. So I did a 24-hour, and I did it from 8 p.m. at night to 8 the next night. So it wasn't so bad. So you're really not going a full day, daytime, because you get to eat that next night. So this one isn't that bad. And like I said, 90% of your microbiome live in your gut. So after that 24 hours, the gut begins to repair. Now, I only did 24 hours. So my gut probably just started to repair and then, stopped. So I would have needed to do much longer. And then I did some more studying and realized that it was the wrong time as a female of the month for me to fast at all. And that's why I actually had a very bad response to the 24-hour fast. But it did help my bloating for about 2 weeks, 1 to 2 weeks. It would have done much better had I gone 36 hours. Your body starts making stem cells, starts here. It speeds up later. Invigorates those microbes in the gut for immune response, helps make the neurotransmitters to keep us focused, calm, and happy. So what people don't realize, sometimes I have my clients, if they're really struggling with anxiety and depression, I always refer them to a therapist, but we try to do a fast before we do anything. And many of them have responded very well to that. It just clears the mind. Reasons to do a 24 plus, to reverse intestinal bacterial growth. So a lot of times, what I was going through could be from intestinal bacterial growth, because our small intestines shouldn't have any bacteria in them. So when bacteria grows in there, problems naturally arise. For women, years of birth control use will literally kill all your good bacteria in your gut and contribute to a leaky gut. And then, of course, the use of antibiotics does the same thing. And I'm sure you hear a lot about that. Like, only if you absolutely need it should you go on antibiotics. You should do probiotics when you're on antibiotics, and then doing a fast and probiotics after will help reset the gut. Did I go over all? Yeah. Fat burner is 36 plus. So this one, if someone's really resistant to losing weight, like they're doing everything and nothing seems to be working, and this happens a lot for men and women in our age group, right? Because we're trying everything we did before, none of that's working. So if you wanted to get the scale moving again, release stored sugar, reduce cholesterol, the 36 plus is probably the best fast for you. Then there's the dopamine reset. This is the one that I typically use for mental health reasons, to lower anxiety. So if we're in like a vicious cycle, I know you guys tend to train really hard, right? So if you're training really hard, and then you're a big career person, and then you have family responsibilities, and then your phone is constantly like bleeping at you, and you don't have any time, any windows to bring those cortisol levels down, to bring that stress down, then we operate in a state of the amygdala, and that part of the brain keeps us safe, but we end up in fight or flight mode instead. So a 48-hour fast can stimulate the prefrontal cortex and make GABA, which I don't know how much you know about GABA, but that's the we call it the happy neurotransmitter. Those who want to reboot dopamine levels, lower your cortisol levels, this would be the best fast for you. Immune reset. This is a big one. A 3 to 5 day water fast. 5 days, obviously better. At 72 hours, your body starts to regenerate stem cells. It actually starts earlier, but very slow. It really starts to speed up after that 72-hour window. And I don't know if any of you, I know John said you did like what, 3 or 4 days, or 4 or 5 days?
Yeah, 3 or 4.
3 or 4. Some people say that after that 4th or 5th day, or even after the 3rd day, they're really not hungry anymore. And they just start having this feeling of just peace and confidence and positivity and calmness. And then, I don't know about you guys, I have a lot of musculoskeletal issues. So for those who have a lot of knee pain, hip pain, low back pain, a 72-hour fast could be exactly what you need. There's another aspect to this with the musculoskeletal issues, and that is every gram of carbohydrates. I want to see you guys for a second. Every gram of carbohydrates you put in your body retains 3 to 4 ounces of water. Some of that water our organs need, but the rest of it just kind of seeps into the joints, seeps into the subcutaneous tissue. So as we get older, we have even a harder time breaking down those carbohydrates and getting rid of that water retention that comes from the carbohydrates, because the carbohydrate pulls water into the body. So think about one fruit. One fruit is 20 grams of carbohydrates. So that's 60 to 80 ounces of water that we're holding on to from one fruit. That doesn't mean don't eat fruit. We need some of that water. It just means that if you eat a lot of carbohydrates, you're going to pull fluid, i.e. inflammation, into the joints. And that's going to cause more joint pain as we get older. So why try a 72 plus fast? Slow down the effects of aging. So that's that whole stem cell production. And the sad part is, if you screw this up, the minute you consume food, that production is turned off. So if you get to like 60 hours and you're like, oh, I can't do this anymore, you literally have turned off the main benefit of this fast. Alleviate pain and stiffness, which we talked about. Ease chronic conditions like diabetes, cancer. They have 1 million studies on cancer patients who have fasted. A lot of the studies that I've read do a 36-12. So they fast for 36 hours, eat for 12, and they repeat that. And they've had a lot of success with that. Rheumatoid arthritis, chronic pain, also chronic disease. 3-day water fast twice a year helps get rid of cancer cells. So imagine that, because we all have cancerous cells in our body. It's just a matter of, are they going to grow, metastasize? But a 3-day water fast twice a year helps get rid of those cells. That's huge. And 3 days is not that bad. All right, so keep your questions in mind. We're going to talk about the pillars of your fasting journey, which is more personalized. So one, when you're thinking about what kind of fast is best for you, identify your goals and what you want to accomplish with fasting. Vary your fasting length. So find the fasting window that works best. Then use some fasting variations. Vary your food choices. So this has nothing to do with fasting, but when you are eating, I am terrible at this because I am very lazy when it comes to my food prep. I food prep on Sundays, and I refuse to cook much during the week just because I have very long hours. So I end up eating the same thing all the time. It's best not to do that. It just doesn't serve our hormones or our guts. And surround yourself with a positive community. We really underestimate the importance of this on our health and well-being. There have been numerous studies about those who live to 90, 95, 100, and the one thing that they had in common was community. And then other considerations is your schedule. Match your fasting lifestyle to your schedule, your activity level. We'll talk about that at the end. And then some days you might want to have a shorter fasting window due to higher energy output, and others you may fast longer. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I started doing with my clients. A few of my clients found it difficult to do their intermittent fasting because they work out first thing in the morning, and they would seem to be okay on cardio days to have a longer window. And maybe lighter weight days, but when they had heavier weight training days, typically we would go ahead and we would have them do their collagen coffee in the morning, maybe some pre-workout. We use a pre-workout that has a lot of vitamins and minerals in it and no artificial sweeteners. So they have a flood of nutrients, and then they do eat after. On the cardio days, they wait. They do a 16, what do I have them on? 16-8 on cardio days and a 10-14 on their non-cardio days. So that's what we shoot for, and that tends to work for them. People who I have a history of eating disorders. And I'm very cautious about that, and several of my clients as well, because I live in the bodybuilding world. So as soon as people start getting too many rules associated with their eating windows, we don't fast anymore. Just because they can't, they're very black and white thinkers. So they don't know how that will end up not good. As far as protein synthesis. Protein synthesis does go down when you fast, of course, for long periods. But what they found is that when the fast is done, your protein synthesis goes up. So it ends up balancing out. Now, if you are competing, like Court, are you still actively competing? Like, are you competing? Is this your season?
I don't have a show until September 23rd. So yes, yes and no. I mean, I've got time, but yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So when you're cutting, I would probably suggest doing your fasted cardio, but eating after that and before weight training.
Okay.
Yeah. When you're not cutting is when you could play around with a longer fast. And then when you come out of your fast, ease into your protein sources, like do a lot more fish and ground lean turkey and stuff that's more digestible than your heavier, definitely no red meats for like a week and no raw vegetables for a little while. You need stuff that is going to be easily digestible.
Okay.
Hopefully that helps. Yeah.
Can you repeat what you said before? So cardio days, what was the ratio versus weight
Cardio
training
days, I have a lot of clients on cardio days doing 16-8.
Okay.
And then on days where they're lifting heavy, they are typically doing 14-10.
Okay.
So they're eating 2 hours earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I have noticed that because my mornings start out with like a freaking rocket, I actually break my fast with collagen coffee, but I don't take in any food. And that completely goes against like intermittent fasting. But I still like I'm less bloated. I burn more calories, and I'm not stopping the protein synthesis either. I've just found that works better for me because if I don't have my collagen coffee and my greens and that stuff, I end up overeating during my window.
Okay.
Because I'm just starving. So, all right, we are going to skip over Fast Like a Girl and we'll come back to that, Kia. And there we go. Fasting and specific conditions. Okay. So here are some specific conditions and kind of some guidelines, general guidelines. You will all get a copy of this, so you'll have these notes. Fasting and hair loss. If you are losing your hair, like most middle-aged men and women, you should not fast more than 17 hours. What I say is, a lot of people are losing their hair also have musculoskeletal issues. So I like the idea of fasting for my musculoskeletal issues and like a long fast once a year, continuing with like the hair growth system that I'm using, taking a mineral supplement, all that good stuff. They say that you should, if you're young, especially if you're younger and you have hair loss, consider a heavy metal test. But like hair thinning is kind of a natural aging progression, and there have been a lot of products that have served us well. Fasting and fatigue. This is what we were talking about, Kia. You may get a little tired and foggy at first because you're healing those mitochondria. So some things to consider is like red light therapy. Have any of you guys done red light therapy?
No.
I haven't either. I'm very curious about it.
Yeah, my aunt has cancer, and so that's something that she has incorporated. So she's doing it.
Has she told you about her experience at all?
No, not too much. And she's just really gotten with it somewhat consistently in like the last month.
Okay. I've heard great things about it. I've also heard great things about it with regard to anxiety and depression. Mental health is a big issue right now, so it might be something to consider if you have longer seasons of, I mean, we all ebb and flow, right? But if you're having a longer season of ebbing, then something you might want to consider. Hyperbaric oxygen chambers, anybody familiar or experienced?
No.
Yeah, I've known people that have had great results with that too. Fasting and supplements. Now, this one kind of, I take a lot of supplements. In some of the resources, most of them say you can take your supplements during a fasting window if you don't get nauseated. For me, I take green powder and my joint support, and I feel like that's a lot of nutrients to be putting in my body. So I feel like I'm no longer fasting if I'm taking those supplements. So I'd love to dive into that a little deeper. But B vitamins are a no-go on a empty stomach. Usually most people get nauseous. And usually it's suggested on a 3-day water fast to not take your supplements, just clear your body completely. Cravings often come, a lot of people don't realize that cravings are often an imbalance of the minerals in your body and your gut microbiome being completely off. So a fast can help fix those issues. And then taking, like a Calm, I don't know if you guys know, I take Calm at night. It's a magnesium. I take it with calcium. It's magnesium, zinc, calcium to keep my mineral balance in check. And fasting will kill bad bacteria. Keep skipping around. Fasting and sleep. So some people experience that they need less sleep. So they wake up and they feel rested in the morning, 30 minutes, an hour earlier. Aches and pains may show up at night on a longer fast, just because it's actually a positive effect because it's repairing scar tissue. So if you do a long fast and you're like, oh, my knee aches, like this isn't good. It's actually a good thing. It's a good sign. Magnesium for bed may relax the muscles, and CBD can naturally turn off some pain receptors. Fasting and exercise. They say not to work out on a 3-day fast. I say like probably not lifting, not doing intense things. Walks are fine. Obviously, like if you're somebody that's super active and a light jog for you, like a mile or something, is probably not going to hurt, but nothing intense. So let's see. On shorter fasts, it's fine. But if you're doing like a 24-hour fast, you should probably that shouldn't be your intense day for a workout. The body naturally elevates blood sugar during exercise. I don't know if you guys knew that, but it does that to meet our physical demands. So if you've ever had blood work done, like I had blood work done, I was when I did my research, I was like, that's why. I had my blood work done at the doctor one time. And for the first time, my glucose was super high. And I was like, I eat protein. I was like cutting at the time. I'm like, I'm eating fish and vegetables. Where's the glucose coming from? It came from my workouts because I had just worked out. Very interesting. Fasting after a hysterectomy would be like a 30-day reset. I didn't get into that because it's very complicated. So if anybody had any questions, I could get more into that. I have had a thyroid condition my whole life. So I was very intrigued to dig deep into fasting with a thyroid condition. And literally every single cell in your body has a receptor site for your thyroid hormones. That's why the thyroid is this governing organ in our body. Like it's an amazing thing. So what happens when that amazing thing doesn't work, or you no longer have that amazing thing? Like I don't even have one anymore. So mine's regulated by medication. So fasting can decrease the T3 hormone, which we actually don't want, but it's kind of like, what did I tell you about the protein synthesis? Same thing. When you're done fasting, the T3 levels tend to shoot up. So fasting can kind of depress some of the things that we need, but it's doing that because it's building momentum. Adrenal fatigue causes the production of reverse T3 instead of T3, and that can't be used by yourself. So that will cause TSH levels to be off the charts. Excessive stress on the mind, digestive tract, body, and more can all lead to adrenal fatigue. I think we all know that. Obviously, fasting, pregnancy, and nursing are a no-go. Diabetes, I have 2 people with diabetes, type 2, that are fasting, and they have been doing great with it. Type 1, typically we do not. And they should monitor blood sugar throughout the day. Fasting and eating disorders, just a no-go. And that's what even if it's someone like myself who I'm no longer, have been good for a long time, but it's very easy to readapt to that mindset, just like alcoholism or any other addiction. So if you've ever had disordered eating, then this rigid structure is definitely not the best thing. So what I'll do is I'll take questions now, and then anybody who wants to stay on for fasting like a girl, even if you just want the information for somebody in your life, feel free to stay on. Otherwise, I will, after I'm done with just kind of talking about that, I will send all of this your way. So any questions thus far?
No, other than I'll stay on because I do want to hear what you have to say about cycles and how it changes for y'all.
Yep. It's intriguing and exhausting. I'm like, oh, so complicated. So complicated. All right. So
this was so informative, though. I did want to let you know, like, this is super, super informative.
Good, good. I'm glad. Yes, John.
Question for you. You mentioned earlier, I jotted it down, but I wasn't sure I got it right. You said one gram of carbs that you consume your body will retain 3 to 4 ounces of water per gram of carbs.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And then you were mentioning protein synthesis during the fast. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. So protein synthesis during a fast will obviously go down. A lot of your systems slow down because we're trying to calm the system so that your body can focus on other things like autophagy, like building stem cells, like healing the gut. So it will slow down on the thyroid hormones. It'll slow down on protein synthesis. But then what happens when you start eating again is those processes usually go higher than they were pre-fast. So now after that fast, your body's able to metabolize that protein. Why? Because you just healed your cells in the gut. You're able to digest that protein faster and more efficiently. Thyroid hormones start producing again because they're not working so hard against themselves.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. If you're taking thyroid supplementation,
yeah.
Does your T3 stay level then? because you got the medication to go along with the fast and not drop?
I did not read any studies on that.
Mhm. Okay.
But what I would, out of like just an educated guess,
Mhm.
would be that the fasting is slowing your body's process down. So when you're putting that medication in, I would think it would process it the same or better, because you're not digesting food.
I
Yet,
got
if
you.
you're
It seems to me too that a lot of this comes from because, especially until recently, I'd have a meal before I went to bed. I'm trying to get 3,500 calories, 4,000 calories in. And by
Ugh.
the way, that's how I lose weight. If I get my calories under 3,000, the weight loss stops. I know it's calories in and out, and that's supposed to make sense. But when I clean my diet completely up and I eat a ton of calories, my little body gets muscular and lean, and I do lose weight on the scale. It doesn't make any sense to me. John Perillo wrote some stuff on it. Maybe it's what he talks about happening, but that's not part of the discussion. But I've gotten it lately where I do stop a couple hours, water and everything, before I go to bed, because it does give your body a chance to work on itself, not spend the whole time on digestion. So I wonder, I understand the keto thing going on, but it sounds like too, it actually lets your body fix itself instead of spending the whole time digesting food for the next 8, 9, 10 hours.
Yes.
So
I
I
mean,
think
you're in
that's
kind of a catch-22 because you're naturally so lean, and it's harder for you to, to build and, keep any kind of body fat on that body of yours. We all hate you, but no, but you have to look at, okay, what's the main goal here? What's the number one goal? And you have many goals in life, but that's why I said for you, doing a fast for health reasons or your joint integrity or your gut reset would be great. Do that off season, and then feed your body, maybe do intermittent fasting on your cardio days to really get hard and lean, but then feed the hell out of your body on those weightlifting days.
Yeah, on your 10-14, if that's the way I decide to go, which may
Yes.
not be quite enough, but yeah, it does allow me in those 14 hours to consume a lot of food.
Yes.
And my aging doctor, I mean, you asked about competing, I still compete, and I spend a lot more time judging and expediting and things at shows, but I have told him now it's time to really think about my long-term health. And so we do my supplements
Accordingly.
yeah, according to that. And
Yes.
it's more about living longer. So yeah, this is something I definitely want to add to my regime.
For sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, there are just too many benefits not to, right?
I agree.
All right.
Quality of life stuff.
Exactly. Does anybody have any other questions before we move on? Okay. Fast like a girl. Dr. Mindy Peltz really gets into this. This is her genius. So, for women who are still menstruating, days 1 through 10. So from the first day of the cycle through the cycle, that's called the power phase. And the suggested fasting cycle is 13 to 72 hours. And a food style that works best during that time is called ketobiotic. And we'll talk a little bit about that. The hormone focus is insulin and estrogen. And the healing focus is autophagy and ketosis. So what that means is keto and low carb diets are often reduce the necessary flora in the gut. So that's why it's called a ketobiotic diet. So if anyone's doing a keto diet, they need high probiotic foods and a probiotic supplement. So on day 1 of the cycle, the sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, they're at their lowest. And so within a few days, what happens is your brain begins to pulse the hormones you need. I don't know if you knew that's where they were coming from, but the hormones actually come from the brain. that you need for your ovaries to release an egg, whether you're going to use it or not. This continues until the estrogen peaks, and that's around day 13. Estrogen produces collagen. So that's why we see these beautiful wrinkles and are more prone to injury as we age, ladies. Estrogen also puts you in a good mood, gives you clarity, enhances communication, makes you feel more optimistic about life. It's a precursor to serotonin. So, Kia, have you done a hormone profile?
I have not, no.
Yeah. So this information that we're going over today will be so beneficial. So definitely keep a copy of this when you get a hormone profile done, because you'll be able to know, like, okay, I did it at this time, and this is where my hormones should be, and it'll tell you when they're off. And not only can you consider HRT, of course, but I can't do much HRT because I had cancer. I have to be very, very careful. So fasting is just a better option for somebody like me.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, and then HRT, you don't want to go in, hard and heavy with HRT either, because you don't know, everybody's so different. You don't know how you're going to react to it. So you want to start very, very slow. And that's why, like, doing a fast during this time could be very helpful. Then you have days 11 through 15, ovulation, that's the manifestation phase. Fasting length is less than 15 hours. So no long fasts during this time. Eating style, hormone feasting foods. We're going to go over those. Estrogen and testosterone influence you the most during this 5-day period. Benefits of increased estrogen and increases. So this is like the best time for your killer workout. So if you were actually tracking your cycle, you can be like, oh my God, it's day 11, go after it. And you'll actually feel that energy. Just amazing when you actually do track that. Benefits, great time for a new project, task, new business, because you're also very focused, and push the weights. Hormone feasting foods. These are the foods that you should be consuming during that time. So cruciferous vegetables, green leafy veggies, bitter lettuces, sesame and flax seeds, fermented foods, salmon, like fatty fish, blueberries, raspberries, boysenberries, apple varieties, especially green and Newtown, green and dandelion tea, spices like turmeric, cumin, saffron, and dill. So keep some of this stuff. Like these spices are easy to keep. Dandelion tea is easy. Apples and blueberries, and you should always be doing like ground flax or chia. And so incorporating that stuff should be easy. And this is a good time to have that salmon, that fattier fish. Then days 16 through 18 is the power phase. So suggested fasting 13 to 72. They're very broad here. The main thing they tell you is when not to fast. And we're going to get into that. This is another ketobiotic. There's a lot of ketobiotic phases, 1 through 10 and 16 through 18. The hormone focus is insulin and estrogen, healing focus, autophagy, and ketosis. And this is when all your hormones start to dip. So you start to feel more like the first week of your cycle, but instead of your body preparing to make estrogen, your body ramps up to make progesterone. And you'll feel that dip in energy and clarity typically. Day 19 until the cycle begins is a nurture phase. So absolutely no fasting, like none. Meaning sleep, but eat when you feel your body needs to eat. You should also be eating more carbs, healthy starches during this phase. Hormone feasting foods, cortisol and progesterone are the hormone focus. And the healing focus is reducing stress. So during this time is when those workouts shouldn't be as tough. And I wish a lot of the male coaches that I had when I was, bodybuilding had any idea about this, because I think that's why they ended up, really not succeeding, and a lot of women like leaning out like they needed to, because they were starving them when their bodies needed to be fed, and then having so many emotional issues and everything throughout the process. So this is when your body produces progesterone and tells you everything's going to be okay. You typically are less aggressive, less irritable, and more likely to chill, but only like if you're pushing your body to where it's not supposed to be during this phase, that might not be the case. Then you'll end up just being very sleepy. Progesterone's job is to prepare uterine lining for a fertilized egg. Progesterone levels usually peak 6 to 8 days after ovulation. And progesterone is heavily influenced by cortisol. So if your cortisol levels are high, your progesterone hormone is always going to be off. And you need DHEA to make progesterone. So if your cortisol levels are high, you won't have enough. This is what I was just saying. But that's why you won't have enough DHEA. Progesterone building foods, which is during this nurture cycle, you'll notice a lot more starchy carbs, potatoes, sweet potato and yam, squash, lentils and black beans, citrus fruits, tropical fruits. This is the best time. Wild and brown rice and quinoa. Don't fast. Don't diet hard. And this is especially important for perimenopausal women who still have a cycle, but don't ovulate anymore. So the cycle's a little closer together. It's not 28 days. All right. So I am going to stop my share. That's a lot. So just, when I send it, go over that again. And just if you have one takeaway for me when I did the research was like, oh my gosh, I stopped expecting so much out of my body during the time where it was the need was to rest. Right. So I still worked out. I just didn't go like crazy. Yeah. And fasting too. It makes sense why I would get up and be like, those were the days I get up, I'm like, oh my God, I got to eat. And here I called it I was calling it cravings. It was my body needing that. So.
Right.
Yeah. Cravings are different than hunger and your body producing that need. And a lot of times we get them very confused and we think, we usually think the opposite, right? We usually think, I'm hungry, and you're really not hungry. You just are craving something. It's a habit. It's, this is when I snack, I have too many BLTs, bites, licks, and tastes. So I call them, but this is what I found the opposite, that I was like, we call them like your PMS cravings, right? They're there for a reason. They're there because our body needs them. You don't need cake and cookies and stuff like that. But so if you like crave cake, cookies, things like that during that time period, eat a potato, like a sweet potato with cinnamon, or and you'll be surprised how that craving goes away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So having that knowledge is power. And you'll metabolize that stuff because your body's working really hard right then. That's why it needs it. And if you don't give it that, that's why a lot of competitors, everybody thinks the only reason their cycle stops is because they get too lean. It's because they're not feeding their body, so their hormones stop producing. So it's not really about them being too lean. It's them in starvation. Like they can't do what a woman's supposed to do because they're not feeding those hormones, like the DHEA to produce the progesterone to cause this.
And also because of fats controlling cholesterol and cholesterol controlling hormones. I mean,
Yeah.
low fat diet, I'm sure it's part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother like 5 weeks of webinar, like on that one topic.
Sure.
It's just so in-depth and complicated. So what I try to do is just take the most important things and the things that I felt were the most helpful for me and my clients and put those in black and white.
When you're fasting, no water, anything?
Oh, water, lots of water. Always lots of water. You can't go long without water.
Okay, yeah, I've reduced myself to the little Dixie cups we had when we were kids. I found them, the little tiny Dixie cups, and I drink a lot of water during the day. I shouldn't say a lot, 80 to 100 ounces. 100 ounces on workout days, 80 on other days. But I just have these little Dixie cups at night just to really relieve, let my kidneys completely calm down. But you put all the water you can stand, fine.
Yes, you want lots of water. Yes, because you could get, because the minerals tend to, like, it's good to have a mineral supplement too, because the minerals can be off. So you don't want to like guzzle water all the time, because that can cause neutropenia. So you can literally water down all the nutrients that are left in your body and get sick.
Mm-hmm.
So you just want a regular amount of water, nothing crazy.
80 to 100 ounces, that normal.
Yeah. You probably don't need as much as you would if you were eating. Like 80 is probably good.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, good. It is so nice to see you both. Kia, Court,
Yes.
Court, did your first bodybuilding competition, right? Like,
you helped me through it. Yeah, 144 pounds as a bantamweight, didn't even realize it. And I stepped on stage as heavy as 180, but I'm not ever going to be a big guy. I thought in my 40s I would be, but I tell people, so I'm little, but I'm a big middleweight.
like 20 something years ago.
Oh, at least, yeah, sure enough,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. In fact, I saw a friend of yours yesterday had a contest in Savannah, the Iron Eagle, which you're familiar with, and that's why I expedited not yesterday, Saturday, and anyhow, but it was good to see everybody, and so that's more of what I do now, is sit in the background and pay my dues for.
Me too. I got inducted into the Hall of Fame last year, and so it was a hard season. I don't know how I ended up third in the world in Tri-Fitness at age 52. Have no clue how I did that, because every day was absolute hell. Like, I just felt like I was getting slower. I couldn't drop the weight. It was just horrific. But I pulled it out of my ass. I competed for 2 days. I did all 7 events. I did a fitness routine. I got second in fitness routine to an Olympic gymnast who got first, who was in 27. So I was like, that's all right. I'll take second to her.
Right. Wow.
Bench press, shuttle run, box jumps, 2 obstacle courses, and a body in a physique competition.
Yeah.
All in one weekend. And so this year, everybody's like, are you doing it again? I'm like, oh, hell no.
Very amazing stuff. Like I can't imagine even doing the fitness routine and stepping on stage. That always shocked me, that you bring your body fat that low.
I mean, and it's dangerous.
Sure.
Very dangerous. So
that's why not many competitors do that anymore.
no.
If you find a fitness competitor at any level, it's rare.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, it was so good to see you both. I'm glad to spend my Tuesday evening with you. I wouldn't want to spend it with anybody else. Blast from the past.
Well,
Yes, this was so awesome. This was really good.
It was
Awesome. Well, Kia, come join us for boot camp soon. Bye, Court.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Stacy. Good
You're
meeting you,
welcome.
Court.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.